I found someone worth my time. My name is Daniel Morrison. I'm a 42-year-old structural engineer in Portland, Oregon. Sitting in my home office, staring at an email from my wife of 11 years. Rachel was supposedly at a meditation retreat in Sedona. The timestamp showed 10:47 p.m. her time. I've moved your inheritance into my personal account. It's better this way. Attached was a photo blurry her and some guy with salt and pepper hair on a terrace. Desert mountains behind them, glasses of champagne. Her smile different than any she'd given me in years. I closed my laptop and walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, stared out at the backyard we'd renovated together 2 summers ago. The Japanese garden I'd designed while she chose the koi for the pond. All that work for a home she apparently had no intention of coming back to. That money, $642,000, from my Uncle Robert, wasn't just cash. It represented the man who'd taken me in after my parents died when I was 16, who'd worked nights at the shipyard to put me through engineering school, who'd left everything to me with one simple note: build something that matters. I looked at my phone. No missed calls, no texts asking if I'd seen the email, just silence like she'd already moved on to her new life. The signs had been there for months. Rachel's meditation retreats had become more frequent. 3 days became 5 days, became 10-day silent retreats. Her phone stayed face down on counters. Passwords changed, conversations shortened. 4 months ago, she'd asked odd questions about the inheritance. Where exactly the money was, which institutions, whether we should diversify, where it was held. I'd nodded, said I'd look into it. I reopened the laptop, read the email again. Noticed she hadn't even bothered with a greeting or my name, just the declaration and the theft. I typed 5 words in response. Message received. Thank you. Then I closed the laptop, finished my water, and went to bed. Tomorrow would be a long day, but lying alone in that California King, I realized something that should have bothered me but didn't. I slept better knowing she wasn't coming home. What Rachel didn't know was that I'd sensed something wrong months ago. The inheritance had never been where she thought it was, and her attempt to take it had just given me everything I needed. I met Rachel 13 years ago at a sustainability conference in Seattle. She was launching her mindfulness coaching business, looking for engineers who understood green building practices. I was 7 years into my career, eager for projects that weren't just parking garages and strip malls. We married within 2 years, built a life in Portland where my firm had its Pacific Northwest headquarters, bought the mid-century modern in Laurelhurst with the floor-to-ceiling windows she'd always dreamed of. No kids, pure choice. The practice is my legacy, she'd say. I understood. My structures were mine. For 7 years, things worked. I designed. She built her brand of meditation apps and wellness retreats. We hiked. We hosted wine tastings. We looked good on paper and in person. Then my Uncle Robert got sick. Lung disease, slow and unforgiving. I took a 4-month sabbatical to care for him in Astoria. Rachel visited once. Hospitals trigger my anxiety, she explained. I didn't push it. When Robert died, he left everything to me. The money surprised me. I'd had no idea he'd saved so carefully over the years, invested so wisely. Rachel seemed surprised, too suddenly interested in our financial planning in ways she'd never been. We should put it toward expanding the business, she suggested one night over dinner. Her business, she meant. I need to think about what Robert would want, I said. That was the first crack. Small but visible. Others followed. Rachel started traveling more for intensive trainings and facilitator meetings. Her calls became shorter, often with voices in the background that went quiet when I asked who she was with. Our neighbor Marcus stopped by one afternoon while Rachel was at a leadership intensive in Bend. Saw someone dropping her off last Thursday, he mentioned casually. Late, wasn't it? Thought you were out of town. I had been. 2-day conference in Vancouver. I thanked him for collecting our mail. Didn't ask questions, just filed it away. Then came the password changes. Investment apps locked when they'd never been before. Conversations about finances that ended abruptly when I asked specific questions. One night I found her on the deck, voice low, laughing, in ways she didn't laugh with me anymore. "Just Sophia from the studio," she said, coming inside. Sophia, who'd moved to Costa Rica 6 months earlier. I nodded, didn't correct her, just watched as she poured herself more wine and changed the subject. The foundation was cracking beneath us, and only one of us was pretending not to notice. 3 weeks before Rachel left for what would be her final retreat, my firm's financial advisor called. "Someone's been trying to access information about your investment accounts," Marcus Chen said, "using your personal information but failing the security protocols." "Which accounts?" I asked, though I already knew. "The inheritance funds. They attempted using your social security number but couldn't answer the verification questions." I thanked him, hung up, and sat at my drafting table for a long time. That night, Rachel suggested we should streamline our finances. "It's inefficient having so many separate accounts," she said, not meeting my eyes. "We should consolidate everything." "You're probably right," I said. "I'll talk to Marcus about it." The next day, I drove to Salem, met with Eleanor Blackwood, my uncle's attorney for 15 years and now mine. I explained my concerns without emotion or accusation, just facts. "Your uncle was prescient to suggest the irrevocable trust structure," Eleanor said after I finished. "The funds are protected regardless of what happens in your marriage. And if someone tried to move those funds without authorization," Eleanor's expression hardened, "that would constitute attempted financial fraud. Clear legal consequences." I nodded. "Let's document everything, and I want monitoring that alerts us to any attempts to access, move, or change anything related to the trust." When I got home, Rachel had packed for her retreat. She kissed me briefly before leaving, already distant. "I might extend this one," she said at the door, "really go deep into the practice." I helped load her bags into her Subaru, watched her drive away, went back inside and opened my laptop. I didn't snoop through her emails or texts, didn't call her friends or check her location. I simply opened our shared cloud storage where we kept household documents. In a folder labeled Kitchen Renovation Ideasa, project we'd discussed starting this spring, I found what I was looking for. Documents she'd forgotten to move or delete, screenshots of my accounts, copies of statements, notes about transfer protocols, a spreadsheet calculating my inheritance minus consultation fees of 15%. She'd been planning this for months. I closed the folder, walked through our house with its carefully curated furniture and art that told the story of who we pretended to be, and felt a strange calm settle over me. The betrayal wasn't shocking. What surprised me was my own response. Not rage or grief, but clarity. For the first time in years, I saw our marriage for what it had become. A transaction she was now terminating because something more lucrative had come along. I slept in the guest room that night. Started making calls the next morning. By the time her email arrived 4 days later, I had already set everything in motion. After receiving Rachel's email, I waited exactly 18 hours before making my first move. No emotional response, no frantic calls or texts, just calculated steps. First, I contacted Marcus and Eleanor, forwarding them Rachel's email with a simple note: "Please document both confirmed receipt." Neither needed further explanation. Then I called Patricia Yamamoto, a divorce attorney Eleanor had recommended months earlier during one of our hypothetical conversations. Her assistant scheduled me for that afternoon. By noon, Rachel had texted, "Did you see my email?" I responded, "Yes, that's all you have to say." She wrote back minutes later. I didn't answer. Instead, I drove to Patricia's office in the Pearl District, where Eleanor joined us by video call. "The attempted transfer creates a paper trail," Patricia explained, reviewing the documents Eleanor had sent over. "Multiple factors work in your favor. The funds were inherited, never commingled with marital assets properly maintained in a trust structure. And she's now openly admitted to attempting unauthorized access." "What's next?" I asked. File immediately citing financial misconduct. Oregon's equitable distribution laws have exceptions when fraud is involved. I signed the paperwork before leaving her office. At 4:15 p.m., my phone rang, Rachel's name on the screen. "You're being childish," she said when I answered. No greeting, no "how are you?" "This doesn't have to be ugly, I agree," I said. "Then let's handle this like adults. The money is already moved. Fighting it will just cost more in legal fees." "Where are you staying?" I asked, changing the subject. She paused, thrown off balance. "What does that matter? Just curious where home is now." "Daniel, focus. We need to discuss the financial arrangements. I'm having my advisor draw up separation papers. It's better for both of us to keep this simple." "Who's your attorney?" I asked. "Michael Winters. He's already reviewing everything." I wrote down the name. "That's helpful. Thank you." "Daniel, are you even listening? This doesn't have to be contentious. You said that already." I kept my voice neutral. "I appreciate your concern for keeping things simple." Another pause. "What are you doing?" "Nothing yet. Processing, I guess." I could hear her relax on the other end, misreading my calm as defeat. "It's for the best," she said, softening her tone. "We've been growing apart for years. This is cleaner than pretending." "You're right," I agreed. "Clean is better." After we hung up, I called Patricia back with Michael Winters' information. Then I sent a single text to Rachel, taking some time to think. "I'll reach out when I'm ready to discuss details." Her response came immediately. "Don't wait too long. Papers will be ready by Thursday." Thursday, 4 days away. Perfect timing. At 5:30 p.m., Eleanor called. "The trust company has recorded 4 separate attempts to initiate transfers today, all properly documented and blocked. And the monitoring system captured everything: IP addresses, login attempts, timestamps. The access location matches where the email originated from: Arizona, Scottsdale specifically, not Sedona." I made a note. "There's more," Eleanor continued. "The system flagged suspicious activity from last month. Someone exported account details and transfer protocols while logged in through your home network. We have timestamps and device identifiers." I thanked her and hung up. Walked through the house that now felt more like evidence than a home. In the dining room, I opened the bottle of Willamette Valley Pinot we'd been saving for our anniversary. Poured a glass. Rachel thought she'd set the trap. She had no idea she'd walked right into one herself. The next morning, Michael Winters called. His tone was professionally cautious. "Mr. Morrison, I'm representing your wife in your separation. She's indicated you're amenable to a straightforward settlement." "Is that what she said?" A slight hesitation. "She mentioned you understood the situation." "Which situation would that be?" "Specifically." Another pause. "The division of assets, including recent inheritance funds. Has she shown you documentation of these funds?" "She's provided statements," he said carefully. "Recent ones from approximately 4 months ago," I made a note. "And transfer confirmations. She's indicated those are forthcoming from the institution." "I see." I kept my voice neutral. "Has she also mentioned the structure of the inheritance? The irrevocable trust established by my late uncle, the legal impossibility of what she's claiming to have done?" Silence. "Mr. Winters, I suggest you verify the information you've been given before proceeding. My attorney will send relevant documentation to your office today." After hanging up, I drove to Columbia River Bank, where Rachel and I had maintained our accounts for years. The manager, James Park, had helped us with our home loan 3 years earlier. "I need to review recent activity on all joint accounts," I explained, after he welcomed me into his office. James pulled up our information. His expression shifted as he scrolled through the screens. "There have been significant withdrawals," he said, "over the past 4 months. How significant?" He turned the monitor toward me. "Regular transfers from our joint savings to an account I didn't recognize. Small at first, 3,000, 4,500, then escalating. The most recent $52,000 3 weeks ago. This receiving account, I asked, pointing to the number. Is it with Columbia River? James checked. No, it's external. Desert Sky Credit Union. I'd never heard of it. Can you print the transaction history for the past 6 months? While waiting for the printouts, I received a text from Patricia Winters requesting urgent meeting. Tone significantly changed. By the time I returned to Patricia's office, the picture was becoming clearer. The Desert Sky account had been opened 7 months ago in Rachel's name only. The address listed was a condo in Scottsdale, Arizona. Total withdrawals from our joint accounts, $196,500. She's been building a new life for months, Patricia observed. While still having access to mine, I added, we were reviewing the bank records when Patricia's assistant announced Michael Winters was on the line. I've received the trust documentation, Winters said, his voice tight. My client may have misrepresented certain aspects of the financial situation, including her ability to access or transfer the inheritance funds, Patricia asked. That appears to be the case, Winters admitted. Given this new information, I believe it would be beneficial for all parties to discuss a revised approach. My client has already filed for divorce, citing financial misconduct, Patricia replied. The documentation speaks for itself. After the call ended, Patricia looked at me. He'll drop her as a client within 24 hours. No legitimate attorney wants to be associated with attempted fraud. What about the money she actually did take from the joint accounts? We'll include it in the filing. Document everything. Let her explain to a judge why she established a hidden residence and systematically drained marital assets. I nodded, feeling strangely detached. The betrayal went deeper than I'd imagined. This wasn't impulsive. It was methodical. Planned over months while she slept beside me, ate across from me, made plans with me. There's one more thing, I said. I need to know who he is. Not for confrontation, not even for the divorce proceedings. I just needed to understand the full scope of what I'd missed while building what I thought was a life together. Patricia nodded. I'll have someone look into it. That evening, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find a courier holding an envelope. Delivery for Daniel Morrison, he said. Inside was a letter from Michael Winters, formally withdrawing as Rachel's legal representation. Copies sent to both Rachel and the court. Attached was a note from Patricia, First Domino. My phone lit up minutes later, Rachel calling. I let it go to voicemail. She called 4 more times before sending a text, "What the hell did you do?" I didn't respond. While making a sandwich in the kitchen, I received an email from Eleanor with a subject line that simply read, Update. The trust company had completed their investigation. They documented multiple unauthorized attempts over 4 months, all captured in detailed logs. The report was attached along with confirmation they'd referred the matter to their legal department for potential criminal investigation. No action required from you at this time, Eleanor wrote. But be aware this path is now open. I forwarded everything to Patricia. Just after 8:45 p.m., another text from Rachel. We need to talk. Now, I replied. Through your new attorney when you have one. You're completely overreacting. I was upset when I sent that email. I didn't actually move anything. That's not what the access logs show. A long pause before her next message. What access logs? Instead of answering, I sent one question. Who is he? 25 minutes passed. Finally, this isn't about him. Name, another long pause. Nathan, but he's not relevant. Last name, Chen. He's just someone who understands what I'm going through. You're focusing on the wrong thing. I didn't respond further. Instead, I searched the name. Found a Nathan Chen who ran a wellness center in Scottsdale. Former financial planner according to his bio. Left corporate America 4 years ago to pursue authentic connections. His photo matched the one from Rachel's email. The next morning, I met with Marcus, our neighbor. The guy you saw dropping Rachel off, I began. Would you recognize him again? Marcus nodded slowly. Silver hair, tall, drives a white Tesla Model S. I showed him the photo from Rachel's email. He squinted at the image. Yeah, that's him. He was here maybe 6-7 times when you were traveling. I thanked him, asked if he'd be willing to provide a statement. He agreed without hesitation. At 10:30 a.m., Patricia called. "We have a development. Rachel's hired Christopher Laurent." Laurent had a reputation for aggressive divorce litigation. Expensive but effective. "He's requested an emergency hearing to contest the financial misconduct claim," Patricia continued. "Says his client has evidence that all financial decisions were mutual." "When's the hearing?" "Friday morning." 2 days. I thought about the condo in Scottsdale, the Desert Sky account, the man named Nathan who'd been in my home while I was away. "Let's give Laurent something to consider," I said. That afternoon, Patricia delivered a package to Laurent's office containing copies of everything. The trust access logs, the bank records showing systematic withdrawals, the condo lease in Scottsdale, Marcus's notarized statement about Nathan's visits, screenshots from Rachel's kitchen renovation folder showing her notes on accessing my accounts. By 4:00 p.m., Patricia received a call from Laurent, requesting an immediate meeting to discuss settlement options. "He's seen enough," Patricia told me afterward, offered terms. "She keeps what she's already taken, makes no further claims. You keep everything else, including the house and full inheritance." "Counter," I said. "She returns half of what she took from joint accounts. Signs a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement. I don't pursue the fraud angle." Patricia raised an eyebrow. "You could get more." "I don't want more. I want closure." The morning of what would have been our emergency hearing, Rachel and her attorney arrived at the courthouse to find Patricia waiting with a settlement agreement already prepared. No judge, no public record, just business. I waited in the mediation room while Patricia explained the terms. Rachel would transfer $98,250, half the money taken from joint accounts, back within 48 hours. She would make no claims against the inheritance or any other assets. She would sign a non-disclosure agreement preventing her from discussing our marriage or divorce publicly. In exchange, I would not pursue fraud charges related to the attempted theft of trust funds. Through the glass partition, I saw her face as Patricia handed over the evidence file. Bank statements, access logs, photographs. Her expression shifted from defiance to shock, to something like recognition. She'd been caught. She glanced toward the room where I sat, then quickly looked away. Laurent reviewed everything, leaning close to whisper in her ear. She nodded slowly. 15 minutes later, they entered the room. "My client accepts the terms," Laurent stated formally. Patricia slid the agreement across the table. Rachel signed without reading it, her handwriting tight but steady. I signed my portion, then slid a separate envelope across to her. "What's this?" she asked, the first words she'd spoken to me. "The passwords," I said. "To the house systems, garage codes, everything you might need to get your things." Her eyes finally met mine, searching for anger or satisfaction. Finding neither, she looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. "It was never about the money," I said quietly. "That would have been easier to understand." Laurent touched her elbow, guiding her to stand. She held the envelope like something fragile as they left. Through the window, I watched her walk to a white Tesla in the parking lot, Nathan Chen behind the wheel. They drove away without looking back. 6 months later, I sold the house in Laurelhurst. Too many rooms, too many ghosts painted into the walls. The buyers, a family with 3 kids, loved the Japanese garden and the koi pond. I moved to a loft in the Pearl District, walking distance to my firm, bought less furniture, kept fewer things, learned to appreciate the sound of rain on industrial windows. Eleanor helped me restructure Uncle Robert's inheritance into a foundation supporting engineering scholarships for foster kids aging out of the system. The first recipient was an 18-year-old from Medford, whose essay about designing bridges between old lives and new possibilities moved the selection committee to tears. "Robert would have loved this," Eleanor said when we presented the scholarship. I thought about my uncle often, his weathered hands, his patient way of teaching, his belief that building something worthwhile required equal parts planning and trust in the process. One afternoon, sorting mail in my building's lobby, I found an envelope with no return address. Inside was a cashier's check for exactly $98.250 and a brief note, the rest of what I owed. Not just the money, no signature, none needed. That evening, I walked along the Willamette waterfront where Rachel and I had once planned our future wellness center. I would design, she would operate. A dream that had died long before our marriage had. I sat on a bench watching boats navigate the river, the check still in my pocket. Tomorrow, I would deposit it into the foundation account. Another scholarship, another chance for someone to build something better. My phone buzzed with a text from James Park, still on for drinks at 6. Bringing that architect I mentioned, I checked my watch. Just enough time to walk home, change, and head to the brewery. Just enough time to decide to be open to whatever came next. On my way, I texted back and stood to face the evening. Sometimes the strongest response to betrayal isn't revenge or bitterness. It's using what remains to build something new, something that matters, something that lasts. Uncle Robert taught me that. Every beam properly placed, every foundation correctly laid. These things endure long after the builders have moved on. In the end, Rachel had been right about one thing: it was better this way. Just not in the way she'd intended.